Welcome everyone, my name is Nomal Ahmed, Pharmacist Managing Director. Thank you for joining me for this webinar, an introduction to Oriel, the pre-registration pharmacist national recruitment scheme. Now you should have received a communication recently inviting you to register to recruit pre-registration pharmacists for the 2019 intake via the national recruitment scheme for England and Wales. As we have been receiving a number of inquiries about Oriel, we decided to put together a quick webinar to give you a brief overview of Oriel, as well as answer all the questions we have been receiving about the scheme, because the deadline is soon approaching. So in this webinar, I will be covering the following key areas. What is Oriel? I will summarize some of the benefits of recruiting nationally. I will provide an overview of the recruitment scheme, confirmation of participation and meeting the HE quality framework, and the importance of marketing your training site. So first, what is Oriel? In 2017, Health Education England introduced a national recruitment and selection scheme for pre-registration pharmacist training programs for all NHS-employed pre-registration pharmacists in England and Wales. Community pharmacy employers were also invited and given the option to participate in this national recruitment scheme. The scheme is managed by Health Education England's London and South East Recruitment and Pharmacy teams, also referred to as PNRO. The PNRO team is also supported by regional recruitment and pharmacy teams who link directly with employers. So Oriel is the name given to the IT system used to support recruitment. Now HEE have highlighted a number of benefits for using this scheme, and here are some of those benefits. The selection criteria have been developed through a robust research process. Selection is values-based and standardized across sectors. Selection methods utilized are evidence-based. Selection is managed by HEE, thereby reducing risks of litigation to employers. Reduced administrative costs of multiple recruitment processes to employers. And it is also fair and transparent to applicants with high levels of acceptability. I would like to point out that HEE have released an employer guidance handbook. This is a 27-page handbook which covers all the key information about Oriel, and you are strongly advised to read this handbook if you decide to recruit via the national scheme. This webinar is not intended to replace the handbook. It's simply an extra tool to support pro-pharma pre-registration tutors to understand Oriel and decide whether they want to recruit via the national scheme. So just to give you a brief overview of the timeline and how this scheme works, employers first need to register by confirming their participation and by reading and agreeing to the confirmation of participation terms and agreeing to comply with the Health Education England's quality framework. I'm going to share with you the link to this form and show you how to complete it after I have explained the rest of the timeline. Remember, the deadline to register and submit your information is close of play 16th of March 2018. So if you do decide to go ahead, you must complete this before the deadline. Once you have submitted your details and after the closing date of 16th of March, you will need to look out for emails from your regional pharmacy leads in case they need to clarify any of the information you have submitted, and make sure you respond to their requests. You will then be contacted in May by HEE to confirm the number of places and review your application. In June, this is when Oriel will open to the applicants, the pharmacy students, to submit their applications and browse the available pre-registration programs. Once an applicant has completed and submitted their application form, the next step will be for them to choose which potential employers they would like to complete their training with. This is where they will be able to view your program description. Now, as the number of different programs available are likely to be in excess of 1,000, a filtering system is available to support applicants with their choices. Now, as part of the recruitment process, applicants will also have to attend multiple mini-interviews at selection centres in September and complete a situational judgment test and numeracy test. The situational judgment test will be conducted online during October. as well as the numeracy test. Employers will not be involved in the online SJT and numeracy tests. However, for the multiple minute interviews, which will be held in September, employers who join this scheme will be expected to provide staff to be interview panel members. You will be informed by your pharmacy lead how many are required. This number will be proportionate to the number of pre-registration places you have entered into the scheme. So if you only have 1 or 2 trainees, you may not be required to attend a selection centre each year. You can read more about the multiple mini interviews in the handbook, but in summary, the score of the numeracy test is used to screen out those with poor numeracy skills. The scores from the MMI and SJT are combined to produce an overall score. Applicants are ranked according to their score and offered their highest preference place according to their rank. Now, in December, that is when you, the employer, will be notified of who your pre-registration pharmacist will be for the following summer via the Oriel system. You will be expected to log into the Oriel system and download the applicant information accordingly. Now that we've given you a brief overview of the recruitment scheme, I'm going to take you back to the main step which you need to complete by 16th of March, confirmation of participation and meeting the HEE quality framework. Now to access that, you need to go to the following web page. So now let's go to that web page. Now once you click on this link, you will see a page here which explains the employer information. And then if you look down here, you will see also a few more links. There are 2 options for employers to provide program information, and that depends on how many programs you are registering. So if you are registering 1 program, go to this link which says Employer Program Information Registration. Only go to the second link if you are registering 10 or more programs, because with this one you will need to fill in your data using Microsoft Excel sheet and the online web form. And you will need to liaise directly with the PNRO team and return this by the deadline as well. So we're going to go to the first link, which is registering 1 program. So I'm going to click on that. Now here it says Pre-Registration Pharmacist National Recruitment, Employer Program Information for Oriel. And you'll see a few links here, which I will explain in a minute, but I'm going to go straight to the form. So here is the Oriel Employer Program Information form. So first you need to select whether you're a new employer, if it's the first time you register on Oriel, or whether you're an existing employer, and this is if you used the scheme last year. So I'm going to go with new employer. The next field is the location. Now you have to pick one of those locations. So it's usually by county. So I'm going to go down to London, and here you can see London, Northwest London, North Central London. I'm going to pick Northwest London. Pretty straightforward. The next section is the employer name or branch town postcode. Now for the employer name, if a student is applying, they will be able to see this information straight away. So this is what you want the applicant to see as your pharmacy name. So here we have ABC Pharmacy London with the postcode. Now the next section is the program description, and this is the most important section that will allow an applicant to know all about the training site they are applying to and what to expect from it. In this section you should explain to candidates why they should choose your pharmacy, and the space allows for 950 characters only, and this includes spaces. So that's not much, and that's why it's important to choose your words carefully. And one of the most important factors in attracting high quality applicants and filling places is how you market and promote your program. So I would recommend before filling this in, you plan well. Now, if you go up to the top of the page, you will find an Excel sheet that says Pharmacy Employers and Program Information from 2017. So you can take a look at how pharmacy employers filled their descriptions in last year by clicking on this, opening the file and browsing their descriptions, and you will see a big difference in the style of how pharmacies advertise their training sites. And when you do that, you can think about what you want to include in your program description to make it attractive to candidates. So for example, you might want to mention why a trainee should practice in your pharmacy, the pharmacy services you offer, what makes your pharmacy unique, maybe mention the pharmacy team, any cross-sector placements you offer, and how you will support their learning and preparation for the exam. So you can mention a sentence about that. Now I'm just going to go up and scroll up again here. There is also another link which says Oriel Employer Program Information Template. Now you can use this to fill in the program description so that you know you've got 950 characters. So they've added this in so that you can do that, so that you can just plan your program description in there, and once you've planned that and happy with it, you can copy and paste it into the program description here. Now again, whilst I was browsing last year's applications, I did notice that some ProPharmacist tutors just included one line about their program description, and that's not very attractive to a pharmacy student, because you know, I'm going to be if I was a student, I'm going to be comparing your training sites with other training sites and deciding based on what you're telling me about your pharmacy. So it needs to be unique to your pharmacy, and you need to make sure it's good. You can also get your pre-registration trainee at the moment to give you feedback on your program description. So you can run it by them and you know, get them to have some input in what they as a pharmacy student would have liked to see when they were applying to your pharmacy. Now underneath this section, you then choose the number of places, whether you have 1 or 2 places in your pharmacy. But remember, in May, if you decide to change this number, you will be contacted by HEE to confirm the number. So this can be at the moment, this, you know, later on you can confirm this. And then for the start date, again, this is a drop-down menu. It has to be one of those start dates, and they all fit in with the start of pre-registration training for the following year. Now, if you're a community pharmacy, you need to here choose the correct employer type, and a community pharmacy would be under primary care. So we just click on that. And then you're going to fill in the lead employer organization information, which is pretty straightforward: employer name, and then the size of your organization. So if you're an independent, you would be 1 to 6 branches. If you are a small chain, you would be 6 to 25 branches. You have to fill this in. And then for specialities, if you're a community pharmacy, then the one that would apply is not applicable, which is the second one in this category. Now, if you're providing a tier 2 sponsorship, please note there is a minimum salary required. So when you go down to the salary field, you have to include the minimum salary required for a tier 2 sponsorship. So here you just pick yes or no. And then the next one is the salary, where you put what kind of salary you're gonna applicable to your training site. Now, we are often asked what we would suggest as a suitable salary for pre-registration trainees. And I would strongly recommend that when considering the salary, make sure it's competitive with some of the larger organizations who are also recruiting. Remember, when applicants make choices, they will compare salaries as well. As you know, the pre-registration training grant is currently set at 18,440. So if you are going to go below that, don't go too far below. And if you are feeling generous and want to go above that, then why not? If you open the Excel sheet that I showed you at the top, you can actually see all the salaries offered by the different providers, and most fall within this range. However, I have seen some offering salaries as low as 16,000, and I think that's just unacceptable. I think those pharmacies who are offering such a low salary should reassess how they run their pre-registration training program. Now, the next one is where you choose your training provider. So we are Pharmacist, and if you are training with us, you choose Pharmacist as your training provider. And then if you have a website, it's a good idea to put this in the following link. And remember, on your website, on your pharmacy website, you also may want to add a page about pre-registration training recruitment, where you can put in more information about training at your pharmacy. The next field is choosing the number of hours per week. So here again is a drop-down menu. Now the next section is about placements. And this form here, you choose the number of placements in your pharmacy. If you are an independent community pharmacy, you're likely to be a 12-month placement, so that's one placement. Only if you are sending your trainee to another placement that is more than 3 months period, that's when you will have additional placements, which you can mention in the spaces on the next section. And finally, you have a section for contact details and N3 connection, whether that's available or not, because then when you do go through to the Oriel registration, that's how you will need to access Oriel. So here you choose yes or no, because if you do say no, then I think there will be other means of communicating with the PNRO. So I'm just going to scroll down, and here we have the confirmation of participation terms. Now this is a very important section. Don't just skip that. You do need to go to the confirmation of participation terms and make sure you read that carefully to say that you agree to the terms set by Health Education England to join in this scheme. I'm just going to see where I can go to that. I think there's a link here where you can access the confirmation of participation terms, and I'm going to scroll back and try and find that. Yep, so click here to read the confirmation of participation terms. So here you have guidance for employers. There are certain key requirements you have to commit to, such as the need to comply with GPHC tutor guidance, which is very important, that you will be available to take part in with interviews in case you are called, and you know, a few other requirements. So please read that carefully and only continue if you are happy with all the requirements. I'm gonna go back to return to the employer page here. So that's a summary of the form, pretty straightforward. And as I mentioned, make sure you plan your program description. Now for the employer guidance handbook, which I mentioned earlier, here it is. You can download it and read all the information about Oriel if you wish to do that. So now that we've completed a summary of the application form, I'm just going to speak a little about the importance of marketing your training site. So we spoke about how you should have a good program description to promote your pharmacy. But HE also encourages you to attend university careers fairs and open days where you will be able to meet candidates and encourage them to join your training program. We understand that might be difficult for all pharmacy managers, but if you do have a small chain or more than 10 pharmacies, I would also strongly recommend that. Now, what we do on our part to promote independent pharmacy, we attend nearly all of the university careers fairs and we promote the Pharmacist training program. And we feel that when trainees see that your pharmacy is associated with a high quality training program, that's a bonus for you because they already know that you will provide them with that type of training. And we do have evidence that trainees like to choose Pharmacist because of the feedback we get, because of the high recommendation that we have. So we do try our best to promote your pharmacies at universities, but we would like you to also focus on, putting together a good program description to try and show what kind of high quality experience trainees will gain at the pharmacy. Now, I'm just going to show you on the next screen how pharmacy students see the program description. So here, as you can see, they get a choice to preference pharmacies either by employer type, so whether they want hospital, primary care or industry. Then they might choose by location. So if they prefer to work in a certain location, that's how they might filter the training sites, or by whether you provide a license to sponsorship or not. So they have several options to filter, because as you can imagine, if there's over 1,000 pharmacies on the system, filtering will help them decide where they want to apply and choose to go to train. Now, on the next screen, I'm going to show you what your program description would look like when an applicant looks at it. And as you can see, the main section is the program description, and that's why you need to focus on making that attractive and making sure that you've got all those key words and key points you want to put across to candidates, as I've mentioned earlier. And then they will see as well, other information. If you have your website address, this is where it will show up. And then training provider, they will also be able to see, if you've chosen ProPharmacist, they will see training provider here. So this brings us to the end of our presentation. I'm just going to go through a few frequently asked questions which we have got from our members. So the first question is, can I recruit via Oriel and the ProPharmacist recruitment service? And the answer is no. Once you have agreed to recruit to the listed programs via Oriel, you cannot then offer this place to anyone outside of the scheme. The specific markers listed within the quality framework for pre-registration training will be monitored by HEE. The second question is, I've missed the deadline. How can I submit my confirmation of participation? We got that question a lot last year, and the answer is simply you can't. Late applications won't be accepted. The third question is, how will I accept an applicant that I haven't met or interviewed? And the answer is, that's just how Oriel works. You have to decide whether this suits you or not before you commit to joining the scheme. And can I withdraw from the Oriel scheme? Withdrawal is not an option unless in exceptional circumstances. For example, branch closure, or there's no longer a tutor, and at that point you would need to contact your regional pharmacy leads as soon as possible to let them know of the situation. Now, I've also put here a screenshot of all the contacts available, and this is from the employer handbook, which I mentioned earlier, which also includes more information about the whole recruitment process. This brings us to the end of the webinar. I do hope you have found this useful for supporting you to make your decision about whether you wish to go ahead with the National Recruitment Scheme, and thank you all for listening.